Hey everyone, this is Mike. Today we're going to be talking about the Delubrum Reginae Savage. It's something that a lot of people have been asking for about my thoughts on this piece of content, but it took until last weekend for me to actually get in there, get some experience on it, and then also clear it the day after. So in terms of my prog, I pretty much experienced it as how most people will probably be experiencing it in a few weeks' time, where I didn't actually get to prog it myself. It was a very conscious decision because progging something like this for as long as it took is probably not really going to be for me. But I basically came in as someone that did their homework, so to speak, joined into a run, and then basically got carried, so to speak, in terms of I do know what the mechanics are doing, but I'm still relying on the callouts of the raid leader quite a bit to execute the mechanics. And the main reason why that's also possible is because of how the difficulty of this piece of content is structured. The difficulty here mainly lies in the organization of the group itself. You need to make sure that you have your 48 people ready. They all need to have their prerequisite lost actions available to them when they go inside of there as well, because missing certain lost actions will result in you most likely wiping as well, and wiping means you need to reset the entire instance, which is also one of the main reasons why I did not want to prog this. Because death is very punishing in here. But the mechanics definitely aren't that difficult, meaning that you can just do your homework, and then when you go into one of those organized runs, just listening to the raid leader's callouts is pretty much enough for you to get through the content. In the first run that I did, we ended up getting all the way to Queen and got to a 6% enrage or something, but that was also because 56 people ended up dying on that run. But then the second run that I did, we managed to clear it, and we didn't even get to the soft enrage at all. So overall, definitely not too difficult. If I had to compare it to something, I would probably say it's around the difficulty of an extreme prime or something like that. Of course, it is still very punishing because when you get hit by a mechanic you're not supposed to get hit by, you get that twice, comes ruin debuff, which of course if you get hit twice you get doom. It is 3 times in I believe the first fight, but later down the line in the raid it will become 2 hits and then you're dead, so that is still there. And then of course the res restrictions are very difficult to play around as well, because your re-raisers are not a guaranteed res when you do end up dying. So you do need to make sure that you try to not get hit by stuff, but if you really focus on that, on just the mechanics themselves and not on having full uptime doing your best TP as possible, then it's definitely not too bad. And also the other thing is, because everybody is going to be bringing all of their lost actions, their essences, trying to maximize their DPS output, having deaths is also not too detrimental, because you are going to be over DPSing these bosses way too much anyways, as the DPS check really is not that bad. As I mentioned before, on my very first Queen pull, we ended up having 56 people die, and we just had a 6% enrage. So the DPS check really is not that bad when everybody brings all of their lost actions and their essences, which is why it is still very important that you bring them, because it makes it so that people dying is not as bad as it otherwise would be. Now, the fact that this is a 48-man raid is something that I personally don't really like all that much, because it makes it very difficult for you to get in there if you're not part of one of those organized runs. Whenever I look on Party Finder, there's pretty much no one ever recruiting for this, because you need 48 players before you can even enter the content. So you can't just go in with 24 people and then the content scales down to you or something like that. You need 48 before you can even go in there. And then it's also very easy to just wipe, and because of that, because of how the nature of Party Finder kind of is as well, it's very easy for people to drop out, and then you need to find new players. It gets really difficult like that, so you're kind of at the mercy of Discord groups organizing runs to get in there. It's kind of how it was for Baldesian Arsenal to some extent as well, but now even more so, because the organization aspect is very important, because missing a few lost actions here or there could lead to wipes, which of course you don't want to have that happening. Another aspect or difficulty that a 48-man raid brings is the fact that there is a limit to the server itself and the game itself when it comes down to buffs and debuffs. In a normal party composition, this isn't really going to affect you all that much, even if you were to be playing with 48 players, because you only get buffed by the jobs that are inside of your own party. So for example, your battle litany, your battle voice, maybe like the astrologian cards, that kind of stuff, is all only coming from your party. Like, you're not going to be receiving a battle litany from Alliance A when you're Alliance C or something like that. And that is still going to be the case in here as well. But because this is content that allows you to use lost actions, essences, that kind of stuff, you are going to be getting way more buffs on your buff bar and also way more debuffs on the boss itself, than you normally would have. Of course, the debuffs on the boss, those are shared between the 48 players, so that will always be a problem. But now there is also going to be a problem when it comes down to your personal buffs. And for some jobs, that's not the end of the world. But say, for example, you're playing Warrior, and you're just going to go into your inner release, you press that button, but your buff bar is full, the inner release buff does not get applied to you, and you just lose pretty much all of your damage because your main damage source as a Warrior is your inner release buff. And there are a couple of other jobs that also really struggle with this as well. So it's really not that fun, where you're trying to play your job normally and all of a sudden there are server limitations in place that make that impossible, because of course you don't have your normal raid buffs that you get from your jobs anymore. You also have Shell, Protect, your AoE Bravery. On some bosses you also need Steel Sting or the other one, Spellforge. So there are going to be a whole lot more buffs on your buff bar from your party actions, and then of course from the actions that you bring yourself, like for example your Essence, maybe you're using Banner of Noble Ends, or for example Font of Magic, Font of Might, that kind of stuff. That all adds up to the buffs that you're running with, and the server just can't keep up with that. So if they do decide to make this kind of content again in the future, they really need to make sure that they can up the amount of buffs that are on your hotbar, so that they can basically not break your job when you are playing it. Of course, having a bunch of buffs on your hotbar can be a little bit difficult to play yourself as well, because sometimes like I really just need to start counting how many fell cleaves that I'm doing, instead of just being able to look at my hotbar and be like, okay, I have 5 seconds left on my inner release, that's like 2 more fell cleaves or something, because sometimes it would just be very difficult for me to even find my inner release buff, because I just have so many buffs on my buff bar. And I guess that would be kind of the same for jobs that are very reliant on dots as well, or keeping track of other things that are on the boss itself, because there's just gonna be so many debuffs on the boss. So that's definitely something that they need to fix as well, if they decide to make this kind of content again, so that everything can basically function as it is supposed to function. Moving over to rewards, this is where I feel like they kind of missed the mark with this, because Delubrum Savage is very difficult compared to normal mode, so I would kind of expect there to be some extra rewards attached to this as well that make it very incentivized for people to actually try to do Savage, and after they've cleared it once, to keep clearing it more, because it is more rewarding than the normal version. And in my opinion, that's not really the case. So the rewards that you get from doing Savage is you get a mount the first time you clear it from the achievement. If you clear it, I believe it is 10 times, you can also get a title for doing so. And then you also have a minion at the end. And I think this minion drops every single time, so you can sell that on the market board. But of course, as more people keep clearing, that minion will go down in value quite quickly. And then outside of that, you also have the upgrade materials that are needed to upgrade your Bojan gear, which of course gives you that extra haste whenever you are in a Save the Queen piece of content. The problem with this though is that upgrading your Bojan gear is extremely time consuming. So first off, you need to grind the Bojan coins to get the gear itself. Then you need to upgrade that to its upgraded version. This is done by doing custom, because custom has a very low chance of dropping you those upgrade materials. I have never seen an upgrade material drop, and I've run custom a fair amount of times. Outside of that, you can use like 999 coins or something to buy an upgrade piece instead, and I believe it is 500 coins for a lesser piece. So like head, hands and boots are like 500 coins, and then the chest and the legs are 999. If I'm not mistaken, feel free to correct me in the comments down below. So you first need to get that gear upgraded, which is already a very big time investment. Then you need to buy the new gear that you can buy with the golden coins, which you get from doing normal mode, which by the way, Savage, I believe, does not drop the silver coins that you get from normal mode. So don't really get why that's not a thing, but anyways, you need to do normal mode to get the golden coins, to get the silver coins, which the silver coins you can trade for golden coins, to then buy your new, I believe it's item level 510 relic gear. And then once you have the upgraded Bojan gear, you have the new relic gear from the Delubrum normal, then you also need a bunch of upgrade pieces from Savage to then combine all those things together to get your upgraded Bojan gear that you can get right now, the highest that you can get it. And the problem is that it only gives haste. So back in Eureka it would give you an elemental boost, which was actually really strong, but now it basically just gives you a huge skill speed or spell speed buff basically, and that's really it. Which I don't think is really all that fun, because a lot of jobs rely on having a specific amount of skill speed or spell speed, and this kind of messes up with that. And I do think that just having higher numbers, it's much more better than just going faster again, because some jobs really do not like skill speed. Of course, if you're playing something like a warrior, for example, I do believe it is possible to get 6 fell cleaves inside your inner release if you have the upgraded gear. So it could be fun for some jobs here or there, but it's definitely not beneficial for everyone. Another thing is that this is partially RNG. The upgrades that you get from Savage are somewhat RNG related. I believe there are 2 possible upgrade pieces that you can get for each encounter. So if you're always getting the wrong end of the 50-50, it could take a very long time before you can actually get a fully upgraded set of gear. And outside of that, there's no reason for you to run Savage either. Yes, you do get some actions, but those actions are only really used inside of the Delubrum Savage anyways, because you don't need them for normal mode. And outside of that, there's no real reward. I was kind of expecting that when I clear Savage, I would also get some progress towards my relic weapon. Like, for example, the final step of the relic that is available right now has you run Delubrum normal 15 times or do Palace of the Dead. But say I want to do like the new content that comes out for it, I need to run Delubrum normal mode 15 times, because each time I clear Delubrum normal, it gives me 1 item that I need for the relic, which you need 15 items to finish the relic. I was kind of expecting that when I went into Savage, I would get that item as well, because I'm still doing Delubrum Reginae, not normal mode, but this time Savage, and maybe like up the rewards or something like that. I was kind of hoping that they would do it just like how Castrum is right now, where if you run Castrum you get 5 items required for the relic. I was kind of hoping that if you do Delubrum Savage, you would also get 5, time-worn artifacts, I believe they are called, for your relic as well, but that's not the case. You don't even get 1. So if you're purely working on the relic, Delubrum Savage is just a waste of time, because the only reason why you are there is to get the mount and the minion, or maybe the title if you're after that, and to upgrade your relic gear. Your relic weapon does not interact with Delubrum Savage at all, which I think is something that they really could have added, because you are putting so much more effort into clearing Delubrum Savage than doing normal mode. It would only be normal for it to also reward you more for doing it if you want to do it for your relic weapon, because right now Delubrum normal, there's no real reason for me to run it anymore outside of do it for my relic weapon, because of course I already have my full set of armor that I bought with my gold coins, and the silver coins aren't really used for anything anyways outside of trading them for gold coins, which I also think is very stupid, because if people only play 1 jobs, like right now I'm just gonna be sitting on hundreds of silver coins that I literally have nothing to do with anyways, if I want to get multiple relic weapons. And then I think it would be much more of an incentive to go and proc Savage if that would actually give you a better reward towards this relic weapon, because I like doing Savage, it's a fun encounter, and it would have been really nice if I would be able to do Savage like once a week to work on multiple relic weapons rather than spam Delubrum normal 15 times to just get 1 relic weapon done. I think they could have really changed some stuff up over there. But those are basically my thoughts on Delubrum Savage. I think it is a pretty fun piece of content. It is very punishing for what it is with the Twice Comes Ruin and then also the res block that is in place. Progging it must have been hell for the people that did it, because of the fact that you need to restart every time that there is a full team wipe. And then of course if you don't get res in time, you need to back out and then let the other 47 people go and prog without you, which of course isn't all that fun either. Definitely think that they could have done something different there, but of course can't really do anything about that now. As for this difficulty, I think the difficulty is just right. It is around the difficulty of an extreme primal, so if you are new coming into it, you can definitely prepare by looking at clear POVs, written guides, that kind of stuff, to prepare yourself and then go through the content while relying on the raid leader doing their callouts. Definitely completely possible. The fact that it's a 48-man brings some problems with it, with the debuffs, the buffs, like having a limit in place, and then of course all the organization that comes behind it, and then the reward structure isn't really all that amazing, and I really hope that it can get some buffs in a future patch, so that there is more of an incentive for people to run this as well, outside of just getting it done once for the mount, and then stopping there, because the relic armor isn't that amazing, because mainly it just gives you haste, and outside of the relic armor, there's no real reason for you to still be in there outside of just getting that title or something like that. But those are my thoughts on Delubrum Savage. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about it. Curious to see what you guys have to say. And that's gonna do it for me. So I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank my Patreons for supporting me. And I'll see you in the next one.